Good morning. How are you?
Very well. Self?
Cool. Very good.
Nice to
Thank
see
you.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much for coming to our office.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure. Nice part of London.
Yeah, thanks very much. Well, yeah, we thought you joined us a little while ago, and we had a fairly broad-ranging conversation, or actually had a broad-ranging conversation with our former colleague Marius. But really wanted to dig in a little bit more to trade secrets today. We've been talking about it recently, also with reference to some of our beta customers, and this is clearly where you spend a lot of your time. So thought we'd dive in there, if that sounds good.
Yeah, I think it's a really hot topic. Lots of changes going on in the law. Just about every day you look on LinkedIn or wherever, there's a trade secrets case coming up.
Yeah.
Somebody just sued PayPal from a project or a partnership they had 20 years ago for a trade secret case, which says to me that they've kind of worked out that there is a law that they can use these days to enforce what they felt was something they were wronged on, all those years ago. It's really kind of interesting.
Yeah, and we'll dig into that because it is readily available to everyone. But there are, certain things you need to understand, certain things you do. But once you do that, it's free, effectively. So definitely overlooked.
Yeah, it's free. You don't have to go and register a trade secret with a government body.
Yeah.
There's a fair amount of legwork and foundations you need to put in place, though, of course, to have a trade secret program and trade secrets that stand out.
Sure. And when I say it's free, I like to clarify that's exactly what I mean. Not that there's not a lot of important stuff to be done. Cool. So yeah, I thought it was a point of departure. We might just start off defining trade secrets for the many people who are maybe not familiar with the term. We had one of our early kind of discovery users that we talked about trade secrets, and he said he liked it because it made him feel like a Bond villain, which is very amusing, but probably doesn't give the
I think that's one of the biggest issues connected to it, because when you talk about secrets, people go, and espionage, people go, that's not really anything at all to do with my business.
Yeah.
I'm not James Bond, so straight over there, and I think I forget the guy's name, Don McCombie, I think it was, a CMS lawyer. I can check his name in a minute also. He said at an IM Trade Secrets conference just very, very recently. But basically, unfortunately, people are only getting trade secrets when they've had a problem. And then they're very quickly sort of putting together trade secrets programs. But it's much more expensive to do it, or try and do it after the event, and far more costly than it is to set up the foundations in advance, because that's just administrative time and a bit of effort and a bit of energy, to work together.
Yeah. So a trade secret, just the broad definition, and maybe we'll dig into it to make it a bit realer.
Yeah. So very simply, it's a secret.
Okay.
It's got to. I'm going to read the actual definition, the sort of legal definition from the UK. But it's a secret. It's got commercial value either now or in the future.
Yeah.
Including you've got to be able to demonstrate that, and you are taking reasonable measures.
Yeah.
To keep it as a secret, as a trade secret.
Yeah.
And we can look at that because all the case law, all the litigation is about, well, what's a reasonable measure? Have you taken reasonable measures? And it's varying by court, So because if you shared it on a group of 400 people on your Teams drive, that's quite widespread. And one judge ruled that wasn't a trade secret. So you have to take some steps to sort of determine what it is. But let me give you the official UK. So I think it's important.
Yeah.
A secret's in the sense that it's not as a body or in the precise configuration and assembly of its components generally known among or readily accessible to persons within the circles that normally deal with that kind of information. It has commercial value and it's subject to reasonable measures under the circumstances by the person lawfully controlled to keep it a secret. It's quite complex, but it's a secret. It's got commercial value, and you take steps to keep it a secret. Is ultimately what's meant.
So, I mean, actually, relatively simple when you put it like that.
Yeah.
So you said, businesses would say, "I don't have secrets," and I guess that's wrong. I think all businesses have things that are secret. I think the definition you once gave us was, what is it that you wouldn't want your employees to go down to the pub and tell the employees of your competitor? Which is a really easy way to put it, because every company's got at least some, probably a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
So all companies have trade secrets.
All companies, and this is really important message to get across there. All companies have trade secrets.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, every company's a software company these days, and your code, it's your own code. It's not open source. If it's your own code, you're not built it on open source, then that's a secret.
Yeah.
And you don't want people running off that, nor do you want people running off with your data.
Yeah.
But actually, even more simplistically than that, the vast majority of litigation in Europe isn't over technical secrets like that.
Yeah.
It's over customer information.
Yeah.
The customer list.
Yeah.
The pricing, the profitability.
Mm.
And there's a reveal at the moment, and there's a book that's just been written about Amazon.
Yeah.
And some of their aggressive tactics. Trader Joe's, they had a food, the snack company in the States. I know here in the UK. And they travel the world and they come up with innovative and creative and sort of interesting snacks. And Amazon hired one of the top people, brought her across and put her under tremendous pressure, or the manager did, put her under tremendous pressure to reveal pricing for different lines, profitability for different lines. And she resisted, and she gave away some of the stuff, but she resisted and eventually got the guy fired. But she felt tremendous pressure, aggressive, force to sort of reveal that information. So what's going on in your company? Who's getting on with who? What are the M&A plans? How's that new integration of that company going? Oh, you had a big mess up with that customer. That's sensitive information that has to be protected as well. So you can protect all of that supplier information, pricing, special favored pricing, and so on and so forth, and contractual details for different people.
Yeah. So we had software code, we had kind of customer lists. I guess other things I had like M&A and business plans, strategy type of thing.
Completely, yeah. Marketing, about to launch a new product, the details of that are.
Okay, obviously technical things, so long as that there's the business applications, so things like recipes, processes.
Yeah. So we all think of Kentucky Fried Chicken, Coca-Cola as classic recipes.
Yeah.
And then you can think on the other side of Kevlar, for example.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, the pharmaceutical, life sciences, med tech companies deal a lot in trade secrets.
Yeah.
Because they get it. They're working on stuff. Whilst you're working on stuff from the lab, you don't want that. Your lab technician goes to the pub and telling your competitor what GSK talking to AstraZeneca about what they're dealing with, because that's highly sensitive information, worth a lot of money potentially. They get trade secrets. Yeah. That industry, that sector really gets trade secrets.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that other people are made aware of what's relevant there. Because of course there is a confusion. Sometimes it's not an and/or decision. Do you patent it or do you trade secret? Because it starts out as a trade secret. A pharmaceutical lab bench, trade secret. Are we going to patent it? Yes. Okay. When are we going to do it? What part of it are we going to do? Are we going to do all of it? Or are we going to keep some back for ourselves? Because it's unlikely to be, worked around by somebody else skilled in the space. So yes, let's keep that back as a trade secret. Yeah. Let's patent that component.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And do I need to have the infrastructure, infrastructure policies, registers, that type of thing, for it to be called a trade secret? And if not, it's kind of just know-how. Or I can have a trade secret, it just might be an unprotected trade secret that puts me at risk.
Yeah, so really important question, Dylan. What do you do? The key steps are know what you've got, and taking steps to list, value, and protect. Yeah. And because unless you've taken those steps, then you're not protected with a trade secret, and you can't defend it as a trade secret. Okay. It's know-how.
Then it's just a secret, an unprotected secret.
Yeah, and there's greater, I believe, greater protection available and greater recourse available if it's defined as a trade secret. Yeah. Because in theory, it's got greater value and you've therefore treated it.
So when you say all businesses have trade secrets, that's not necessarily true. All businesses have secrets that should be trade secrets, but they've all just got information.
Absolutely spot on, because the first instance of every trade secret litigation case is we don't believe it's a trade secret.
Yeah, okay.
Demonstrate that you've taken the steps, and that's where the devil's in the detail there. You've got to have taken the steps, which means you've got to, your employee working on a lab bench, he's got to have a contract that says what you're working on is likely to be secret. If we define it as a secret, then you must treat it as a secret, and this is what you must do to treat it as a secret. Yeah. And then, having put that into a contract, you then need to train him to make sure he fully understands, his or her, they fully understand that what they're actually doing and how to manage and treat those. And then you need to make sure that everything is very clear ongoing as to process and review as to what is a trade secret. And then, of course, on exit, you have an exit interview, HR is really important as you come in. Everything here is trade secret, or everything you keep here is you develop here is ours, and some of which is trade secret. And on the exit point, let me just remind you, these sensitive areas you've been working on remain with us. They're in your head, you know that, but you can't go to another company and take them with you and start to use them, because they are defined as trade secrets. You know they are defined as trade secrets, and we're reminding you, and also it's in your contract.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And also, by the way, we're going to write a letter to your employer to let them know that you're coming to them, and that you've got trade secrets, and we don't want them to be sharing them.
Is that something you would normally recommend?
Absolutely, because rather than suing me for moving from the lab bench to the company, and I've got more money. You sue the company I'm working with, they've got more money.
But companies only do that if it's a particularly sensitive employee, or just as part of process that HR.
For me, the big part of all of this is the optics.
Yeah. Okay.
Be seen, be a little bit paranoid. Go a little bit over the top, and you're sending messages.
You get quite a lot of kind of corporate resource to have someone almost with that job of. And whenever anybody leaves, make sure you write a letter to the new employer, right? You got to be a relatively well-resourced company to do that, no?
And whether you value that trade secret.
Okay. That's why I say by exception. So if it's a super sensitive employee that had, the keys, then make sure.
Because it's far easier, cheaper, faster to write that letter. It takes you 5 minutes.
It's very true.
Than it is to go, oh, hang on, we think that John left and he took it with him, and we think he's now working on it. How do you prove? That product that they just launched, that looks like it includes that trade secret. What are we going to do about it? Look through John's contract. Okay, let's get some legal advice, and let's get some some litigation in case. Boom, that's a lot of time. 5 minutes for a letter versus a year of your life.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. Cool. So it's almost anything can be a trade secret. It just needs to be labeled as such and have the infrastructure around it, and then you benefit from that protection. So really, it is something that's almost all companies should be doing, and you get to choose the extent that you do that, right? You can either have our own trade secret register, which you helped us build. I was just updating it last week. Has 15 items. It's probably a lot more that I could have put there. But that's certainly 5 of them are, incredibly crucial. And it's good there because, our team who are responsible for that all know that they're responsible for that. There's record that they know that they're responsible for that. They know they have the keys to make sure it's well kept and so on. I could have, put down a lot more, but there's a bit of effort. I mean, that's for me, it's like an hour a quarter. I mean, is that kind of reasonable, you would say, to split that way?
Well, it depends on your business.
No, I'm saying our business. So for like a young startup.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really pleased. Really pleased to hear that you are actually keeping on top. Because it's very easy to let that slip to 3 months and 6 months and a year, and then you've kind of lost track. And it's actually something that's really increased in value for your business is not being protected. It's on a lower level trade secret.
Well, it's for young companies like us, we have a lot of churn, and we've really had some colleagues that are no longer with us, and you very quickly realize that it's important to have these, and it's very easy. We obviously worked with you to get the right kind of things into our employment contracts at the beginning, and when we start, we have some training, which our colleague Maris has actually now recorded for us, so we've always got it, which so everybody, we're an IP company as well, or an intangible company, so everybody should know this stuff anyway, but bit of training on the way in, good awareness of what's important and what's sensitive throughout, and at the end, if you're leaving, then a very short conversation and just a reminder, these are things and these are protected, and it seems no-brainer.
You've had Maris has left and he's gone to a completely different sector. So the risk there is relatively low for you. But as you get more, and you're in a relatively unique space, but as you get more mature and you get more successful, then there's probably only one place your people are going, and that's to your competitors.
For sure.
And so that's why later on it becomes even more important. But building the foundations now is absolutely significant. So good. And I'm increasingly starting to hear of investors going, okay, so we now need to look at trade secrets.
Yeah.
That's really unusual. But now they're starting to do that. And you can have a look at the register. Here it is.
Yeah.
It's the metadata. You know, and it's not the actual detail of the how we do it. It's what we do, but it's not how we do it.
What is the investor looking for there? They want to see the secret, or they want to see that you got the register?
Smart investor wants to know you've thought about, what would you at least like to give the public, then tell somebody else. You've started to value those and put steps in place to protect them. Including the trade secrets. But
almost for an investor, it's a very quick way to get an agenda of what to do your due diligence on, because that should clearly be the most important things. I mean, for us, it would be a very big fail if we didn't have that list. So that's easy for us to have it, because it would be an end of the game if we didn't. I thought we might kind of dig into a couple of case studies to make it a bit more real, and maybe starting off with a company that we introduced you to recently. We'll call it like Reg Tech Co, shall we? Which is an interesting one because we talked about it a bit. So the particular founder of this company is a technical expert in this particular regulatory domain. We know his business well because it's a bit similar to, in terms of technology, to what we do, where we take a very complex domain and we build it into a knowledge graph, and we're able to then deploy that knowledge graph, or indeed have companies or others deploy that knowledge as a service effectively. And he does this with this regulatory area. You obviously know this given the background. We pointed out to him that he had trade secrets or potential trade secrets that need to be protected as trade secrets. And his very quick retort, which is interesting, was this regulation's in the public domain. So there's nothing secret here at all. All I've done is, some extremely clever stuff, putting into the knowledge graph. And it wasn't easy for us to explain why something that was in the public domain could indeed actually be a secret. So maybe you could explain what you explained to us for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a compilation of publicly available data. I mean, it sounds like he's done some coding around it as well. So, the code connected to that is going to be protected. It's a bit like saying, well, my customer list is public information. It's got John Pryor's contact details. Yes, that's public information, but you also compile that in terms of my interaction with your company, some of the CRM information about me personally, for example, and then the pricing that you charge me for your products. It might be a special favor to me because blah blah blah, special relationship or something. So that becomes confidential.
Yeah.
And likewise, compilation of or coding, I think, particularly of public information, it's a unique compilation of it. But likewise, there's value to it because it's taken
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
2 years. So, you protected the trade secrets. So you don't want somebody else to walk off with that.
Yeah.
And get 2 years worth of your blood, sweat, and tears to get to that point overnight. And this is what happens all the time. So you've just got to be extremely cautious, which is basically, protecting the lock and key metaphorically, but also putting together a trade secrets program and training people and making sure that everybody knows.
So you've got a whole bunch of regulations, and it is like 20,000 pages of regulations, which might be out there, but doesn't mean it's in a useful form. You've gone in, this partner of ours has gone and done some very clever work to convert that onto code. There's also a part of that process which is how to extract that expert knowledge into the code. There is the code, and at the other end of that, you've got something that is almost quite distinct from the public information, albeit someone with enough skill and enough funding could theoretically go and also do it. It's not in the public domain as it is. Similarly with the customer list, and when you say customer list, it's actually broader than that. It's almost the entire CRM. Then it's not a list of customer names, which is what
it could be.
It could be, and even that could be a trade secret.
One classic trade secret case was gymnastics academy. An employee left, took the Excel spreadsheet, set up in competition, email them all up and 30% discount on their clients. And it was a trade secret case, except the judge said, I've seen evidence that he was contractually bound to keep these as trade secrets. He'd been trained on trade secrets.
Yeah.
He'd been alerted to the fact this was a trade secret.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there would have been a case, but no,
Yeah.
no case to answer.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Any cases that you think would be useful to go through to eliminate?
Sure, I think you raise a really good point, and that is that most technicians, inventors, engineers are a little bit self-effacing. They don't think that what they've created is particularly unique. And part of the skill is to actually help them see that the way it's not necessarily patentable. That's the skill of the patent attorney, so to draw that out from the engineer. But it could be a unique compilation, a unique combination, and as you say, a unique set that gives it value over and above its constituent parts. So yeah, I think that's really important. But, lots of case studies out there. I'm really interested in this one because Palantir are a tremendously large organisation, of course, and they're suing a former investor, who they believe, whilst under NDA, and whilst sort of acting as an investor and so on, they got to know certain components within componentry, some engineering aspects of the software, and he then went to invest in another company. And they're accusing him of taking that with him.
Okay.
And it's contravention to contravening the NDA. So that's the case that's ongoing at the moment.
Yeah.
And the reason I raise that is that a lot of people are disparaging about NDAs. And for good reason, because I think we've all collectively signed lots of NDAs in our lives and never given them another second thought, right?
Yeah.
So that's the bad side of NDAs. The upside of NDAs, it's really important to have an NDA that covers you trade secrets as well. Yeah. And specifies your trade secrets, because if it doesn't, then they're not properly covered. And has proper terms there for trade secrets. But then ultimately you need to be moving very quickly to some form of contract, because contract's going to give much better protection from trade secret stuff. But yeah, NDAs are important, but most people don't apply them in the right way. And let's say you sign an NDA with a behemoth corporate, so let's say it's Procter & Gamble, and let's say there's 80,000 employees. You don't want to sign it with 80,000 employees because the judge is going to find that that's not reasonable measures. But if you were to define it as, we need to know the 10 named individuals from you, Mr. Procter & Gamble, who's Mrs. Procter & Gamble, who's going to be working on this project, so, and get that encapsulated. Then you are taking reasonable measures, or you take a proper measure.
So this is where NDAs, the other place that NDAs have a point is in M&A processes, where you invite 10 bidders, but you make each of them sign an NDA because you don't want the two top bidders joining together and losing the competitive tension. So you have everybody sign an NDA, and even if they both know, they can't speak to each other, because then it's clear they breached M&As, breached the NDA. So it's almost naive to think that NDAs don't have a place. They do have very important roles, and this is certainly one of them, right? Where it's the redress you have one day if someone breaks it. But in the meantime, maybe don't believe that it's going to change people's behavior massively, but on the key stuff at the margin, it probably would.
And I guarantee that most people's NDAs, except for certain industries and certain companies, I mean, certain sectors that have got into trade secrets, sometimes because they've had problems. But the life sciences sector is really good on it. But a lot of people have NDAs that have gone back and been iterated and changed, and nobody's really looked at it from afresh. And you can often look through them and go, actually, I had one the other day. The guy said to me, why is this German company wanting to do this in Swiss law? And I said, well, it must be a mistake. I must have took boilerplate copied out some other NDA. He said, no, I don't think they have. Looked into it a bit further. There is no specific trade secrets law. There is confidential information law. You can defend trade secrets using confidential, but there is no specific trade secrets law. And I thought, this seems a little bit sneaky if that's their purpose.
Well, that's people take advantage because nobody reads them. Our NDA is pretty robust, and when more knowledgeable parties on the other side have gone and looked through, they have asked ask for some things, to be kind of reconsidered. So it's good. Yeah, it's good to be full and forceful about that. And maybe talk through like how you would help the company. We talked to a lot of big companies, P&G and so on, and maybe kind of smaller companies for a wider audience. How you help them think through what is it that they have, like how does that conversation look like? Because if it could be anything, then that almost doesn't help one narrow it down of what I should be looking for. And
yeah, a good session which includes or has included training on intellectual property basics, patents basics, and trade secrets.
Okay.
Culminating in why they're really important for the business.
Yeah.
So more than most, Dylan, the value of the vast majority of the value of any business is intangible, protected by intellectual property. And when you start to drill down into that with the business and say, well, what is it? Where is this 80% of value? Because it's not on the balance sheet. What is it? Okay, so that's it. Okay, right. What would you at least like to lose? Okay, right, good. How are we going to protect it? What's the value of it? How are we going to protect it?
Yeah.
Oh, can we patent it? No, not really. And then you start to put a trade secrets program together. But
yeah,
and you really do have to have almost like a disclosure session where you sit with the key members of the team in the room and you kind of brainstorm. And then,
And you say it's almost what is the guideline, like kind of like what is the most important things to how you make money? What do you keep the most secret? Like what are the questions that you asked?
What is existential?
What is existential?
Okay, when
start there.
What would if that Coca-Cola is probably apocryphal, let's be honest. But if that Coca-Cola recipe went, that's pretty existential. So if the Google search algorithm went, that's pretty existential. Right?
Yeah. And then so go on.
And then the next one down is going to be profit impact.
Profit impact.
So what's going to have an impact on our profitability?
Yeah.
If the competitors get hold of that, but they're going to be able to erode our margin because we won't be able to charge as much. There'll be a competing product, so some of the products in the market.
Okay.
So we're going to have a profit impact. So number one, number two, and then number three is just I don't know. I'm quite come up with a decent definition for that, but general business confidential information.
Yeah.
But it's really those that are really most interested in the existentials. And then the profit impact ones. And then if you can get those down, then you've got a good.
I've spent too long in my life doing finance, doing profit. I was like, third one will be balance sheet.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, maybe it should be like what is what's critical to your financial position. What inventory could become redundant if you're a retailer, the next day or whatever it might be. So that's really useful. What's existential? What might have a material profit impact? And Dylan's own edition. The balance sheet fund. And then I was going to ask maybe a difficult question, and maybe it's a stupid question actually, is like, so that's the top end, what's existential. There is some kind of cutoff line that is how long is a piece of string, but how might you tell a company that you could have 1,000? Because when we started doing this the other day, it was like there was certain contracts. I was like, that's really confidential and very critical. And then I whipped out our contract register just to make sure I'd missed any. I thought, well, there's 30 that I could put here, but a lot of these ones don't matter so much. So is that just in your own judgments or the management team's judgments of what's not really important versus, or do you have like some kind of guidance for that? So at what point don't bother?
Well, the guidance really, Dylan, is start with existential and then go down.
Down to where though is the question.
What?
Down to where is the question.
Yeah, it's a good point. And it ultimately becomes a question of culture, doesn't it, within the business? Because if you can build that culture into the business where you've got people trained, and you've got people thinking about what's sensitive information, what's valuable information, what's existential, what's profit impact, then you're kind of winning the battle. Because if you get a whole workforce on side doing that, then your chances of leaking that stuff, this valuable information, are minimalized. The vast majority of leaks of confidential and trade secret information are inadvertent. They are done by insiders. And it's because they don't really know where the red line is. They don't know they shouldn't have gone that far, or they got a bit excited in a conversation with a partner, you know, and wanted to overshare to help, you know. But if they're not being educated on, you know, 5,000 revs is as far as you go. Beyond that, no circumstances do you go beyond 5,000 revs. And these things are in the 5,000 and above category, so ignore those.
Cool. You mentioned it briefly, but just a quick summary of, and obviously there would be, you know, probably best place to get someone like you to help with this, but the steps to actually setting up a trade secret program would be at a high level. Maybe just summarize them.
It's process, policy, people, technology. It's, and you know, it's really important to have some processes and policies in place in the business, but ultimately training the people, getting the contracts in place, and then doing what we just said, identifying, valuing the trade secrets, and then working out the best ways, NDAs, contracts, technical locks and safes and whatever it is to protect those trade secrets. You know, if it's a Coca-Cola recipe, then what's the Google search algorithm or the formula behind Kevlar, then you're going to put it in a safe somewhere. You know, you're certainly not going to have it on anything that's linked to the World Wide Web, for sure.
So there's a setup process, which is thinking through our journey with you, which was really setting up policies, which include the broader IP policy, which is a written document that you helped us with, but we also did some thinking around what was important to us and what, for example, in the event of a leak, what would need to be done. But that's almost like a once-off investment. Also, as part of the setup, there is things looking at contracts, employee contracts, which specify obligations and this type of thing. But again, once-off, that's in the contract. That's our one-take contract now. And then training, which we did for all of our team when we started, and we now have recorded for future team members. Then the maintenance is something that looks almost perhaps like quarterly. You almost gave us a schedule of. We have a steering committee, which is Viet, my co-founder, and CTO and I, where we sort of look at our register, which was maybe 7 items before we did it last week, which is now 15. And then just kind of look at our policy again and just check that there's nothing that is no longer relevant, which is probably always the case. But you know, that's not a long process, and it's a very healthy thing, because as part of that meeting, it's innovation harvesting, isn't it? So sitting down and saying what has happened recently that is. You know, I really like the framework. What is happening that is now existential, and there are a few more things that we've developed. So, you know, as indeed our investors would hope, and we indeed hope that, you know, we have been innovating.
It's a really good discipline to get into, that investment harvesting on a quarterly basis, and doing that quick evaluations, whether it's worth a patent or a trade secret. Or something.
And you know, that's actually an enjoyable thing to do. I mean, there's nothing bureaucratic or painful. It's not filling out kind of HMRC forms. It's just thinking about the innovation that you've created, and you know, it can almost feel a little bit you know, backpatting-y type of thing. So, and then for any team members that leave, you know, in our case, it's always amicable so far anyway, and you know, we have great team and a great culture, so it's a very pleasant conversation anyway. But it's just like as a reminder, you know, these are the very important things to us, and you know what trade secret risk looks like, and you're an obligation not to share it, and you know, like if you got the right kind of culture, then your employees you know, should not have those intentions, but if they did, then you know, they've been warned, and now the law's on your side effectively.
And the definition of insider goes beyond employee, of course, to partners, customers, suppliers. Famously, I'm working with one customer, and they said, "Oh no, we don't have any trade secrets," and you know, nobody leaves that business anyway. And it's okay. Well, who comes into the business? Well, the suppliers. Oh, you have a supplier. Does that supplier supply your competitor? Oh yeah. Okay. Who brings the goods? Well, that lorry, he knows everything. That lorry driver knows everything. Okay. And we always chat to them to find out what they're doing. Okay. Well, there's a leak. But you know, this isn't a new thing, Dylan. This has been around forever. I was just doing the history on the Silk Road. The Chinese had developed the capability of making beautiful silk material. Whatever that was, 300 AD or something, you know,
Yeah.
2,000 years ago or whatever. Incredibly valuable material that the world wanted.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, it's like the tulip sort of price went way up, and everybody wanted the secret.
Mm.
And the Romans sent, you know, spies and diplomats and centurions and everybody to try and work out how they did it. And of course, they used to steal the silkworms and take it back to Italy. But the worms had died by the time, and eventually somebody worked out who took the eggs. And that spawned the whole silk industry in Italy. But that was a trade secret that had been stolen from the Chinese. And, you know, very famously in the Industrial Revolution in the UK, I'm from a place in Derbyshire called Cromford. And Arkwright developed the water wheel and the sort of water-powered loom for making wool. Right? Industrial Revolution, people came out of the fields and worked. America hadn't got this technology. And they were desperate for it. So one enterprising employee nipped out managed to get across to America, to Boston, and set up with a partner a water-powered loom. The Americans, just about that same time, 1790s, developed their own patent system. He was one of the first recipients of a patent. That technology. So this has gone on forever.
And didn't he actually memorize everything? Because when they're checking the galleons,
absolutely,
for blueprints and stuff.
They actually, the Navy sailed out to one galleon and ransacked and couldn't find any blueprints at all, but it was all in the guys.
Cool story. And as my Italian friends remind me that they don't admit the silkworm thing, but they do admit that spaghetti comes from noodles. So the Italians is bigger in the espionage than we might have thought. Cool. So maybe just closing up. We've said a couple of times that the law is with you if you get these things right, and you now have all this protection, which is obviously very significant in the case of a couple of the US cases. You've seen hundreds of millions of dollars being awarded.
Big awards. Yes, and seemingly easier to prosecute than, for example, a patent case.
And so in the UK, can you perhaps summarize, what that is, what the protection is, and how that's affected? So it's under which act, and then you would need to get what kind of lawyer to help you prosecute that?
Under the acts that I just read out, so I forget what it's called exactly, but it's 2018 the UK law.
It's relatively recent. It's very recent.
All those have been rejuvenated, if you like, and rewritten.
Okay.
The last one always been a trade secrets law, but they've all been added to.
Okay, this is out of the EU law, EU canon.
EU law, so the UK law is the
copy paste.
So you basically need to get your ducks in a row, and then you just get a good lawyer and go to court. And essentially, you're seeking damages for the lost value, as we said, the 2 years you took to create that thing. That's suddenly been dispersed. And then any sort of lost revenues, if you can demonstrate it. That's difficult. But that's where the skill of the litigator comes in. To help you do that. And you see, it's less difficult and it's less easy in a startup, much more easy if you're an ongoing business with revenues and profits.
So it's damages, but then also potentially ahead of that, you might seek, for example, injunctions to stop something that you believe is about to happen. And that might really just be a letter from the lawyer. But
it operates at the ITC level. So I think a case we're both familiar with is the fight between the two Korean EV battery manufacturers. Because there was a trade secret dispute between them. The International Trade Commission refused importation into the United States. And that had to be presidential intervention to get that sorted out. Because the US EV manufacturing capability was severely dented by batteries. So, and it was I think it was at least $1 billion that was changed hands, might be $2 billion that was changed hands to settle that. And then
You say it's difficult if you're a startup so you have IP insurance, but that would help you in this case or wouldn't help you in this case to fund those litigation costs?
Depends on the terms of your, if you've got trade secrets,
Because otherwise,
they do have.
yeah.
So you've then got to have done what you've done
Yeah.
and put the steps in place. And
Assuming you have, so that's what I'm saying. So if you go through all of that effort, you would hope that you then have some protection, but no, you would also need to have $1 million in the bank to go and prosecute that.
Dyson famously had a trade secrets case, didn't they? I forget who with one of the big competitors.
Yeah.
Most partnerships end in some form of dispute.
Yeah.
It's sad to say.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not even getting to marriages.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. All right, John. Well, that was very illuminating. I'm sure going to be useful to many people.
I just got one final point actually, which I should have mentioned earlier. And the patent attorney guys don't like me saying this, but patents, the strength of patents is not what it used to be.
Yeah.
Particularly in the United States, where your ability to enforce a patent is substantially diminished.
Yeah.
Because of the inter-parties review and the challenges to claims and better searching that's available now.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes in litigation, your patent is found to be invalid.
Yeah.
And so you can't not have patents. You have to have very strong patents. You have to have quite a few patents, but you also need to balance out your approach to IP protection. So talking about inventive ideas with trade secrets and other forms of IP.
Yeah.
It's really important now. You can't just rely on patents. You have to have a balanced, blended approach to invention protection.
Yeah, sounds like good advice. You've got to be holistic about all these things. There's no silver bullet. Cool. Well, John, thanks very much, and look forward to your continued support, certainly for us and our trade secret program. But
I look forward to looking at the system.
Yeah, and hopefully helping more business to get this in place, because it's a major drop ball if you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. And if anybody wants to get in touch with me, Exalt IP, EXALT IP.com.